In this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, we'll have GeForce RTX 3060s reviewed, sketchy M1 Apple MacBooks that eat their SSDs, and all the tech news that's fit to print next. Welcome back, my brothers and sisters, to yet another fine episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks webcast, screencast, whatever you want to call it, cast. I'm Dave Altavilla, your friendly, bouncy host today. As always with my compatriots, Marco Chiappetta, the fabulous, ever-entertaining Marco Chiappetta, and the crazy, kooky Chris Getting. Gentlemen,
let's put us where we belong here.
Wow, it's like we're like the freaking Brady Bunch. How you doing, fellas? How's life?
Crazy times lately, and I have to warn everybody, I'm on daddy duty. I have 3 little girls, one door away. There's a strong possibility of something crashing down and me having to run out of here, but we're gonna forge ahead.
Forge, baby. Forge. You know, screaming children, happy children, any kind of children, it's okay. It means you're a healthy individual with offspring. So hey, you did something right.
Like to think so. I find out in 18 more years when they don't talk to me.
Well said. Well, I have a fitting beverage for you that I think really kind of is a good response to that, and that's from Wormtown's brewery, Wormtown and scenic Worcester, Massachusetts. Let me get some focus on that. Says, don't worry.
Put it over your face.
Don't
cover
worry.
those eyes.
Don't worry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the camera's like on my eyes. Don't worry. They also have another can of beer called Be Hoppy because it's an IPA. But this is the Don't Worry vintage. And I think that's fitting for you, Marco. Maybe you should be over here having beer 30 with me or something.
I wish I was. Let me put it that
way. Chris, how you doing over there, buddy? You're looking all dapper with you get a fresh cut or something, kid? You look like you've been to the barber?
It was here last week, but thank you for noticing.
Oh, jeez.
I did forget my beer, so I've just got the water today, but
okay,
so be it.
I'll be the tipsy one then. Somebody has to get some energy up in this crazy cast we have. So the beautiful thing is, and we might as well start real quick with some mentions. The beautiful thing is we're now multicasting to not only YouTube, but also Twitch and Facebook and Periscope and soon LinkedIn simultaneously all at once. LinkedIn's, we have to get approved first. But this is all courtesy and enabled by the platform called StreamYard. And so I would like to give them a big shout out. They have helped us out with a seat of their software tools that hopefully will significantly simplify the active live streaming through multiple services.
Got these fancy transitions there.
Yeah, fancy little cuts and transitions and all that good stuff. StreamYard, check it out, StreamYard.com. Good folks over there have been working with us last week or so, trying to up our game, trying to extend our reach a little bit more, and harass Marco in the process all at the same time.
I didn't do anything.
I had to throw you under the bus again somehow. I gotta mix it up with you today because you're afraid, and I'm trying to lighten your mood, brother.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm having fun. It's podcast time, and I've got my my beverage here.
Your H, your 2, and your O, all in the same glass.
Delicious.
Oh, look at that! Now we're a threesome, man. We're like bouncing all over the place. Chris is going crazy with the transitions. So what's new and exciting other than what we're going to dive into, but what's new and exciting in your labs today? Marco, I know you just got through launching the RTX 3060. That's looking pretty cool. We'll get to that shortly. Anything else? What's on deck?
A couple of embargoed SSDs are here. They have arrived. So we'll have news on some new SSDs next week. And I have finished testing of a really cool, we reached out to Colorful because we haven't had a deep relationship with Colorful on the GPU side yet. And they sent one of their 3060 Ti's, and I think it's my favorite graphics card ever. We'll talk about that. As soon as that article is done, I finished testing. Performance was awesome. Fastest 3060 Ti I've tested yet. I am way behind on a review of Sapphire's Nitro 6800 XT. That's also done. I just have to write it and plug everything into the CMS. And then we'll be talking about this guy shortly. This was the cute little EVGA 3060.
EVGA 3060. Petite, a small but smitey little fella. Mighty little fella. Hello. Hey, Chris, what do you got going on over there in Maine? Anything exciting yet?
Yep, I've got over there where I can't show you is the new Alienware Aurora desktop with all AMD in it. So going to be kicking the tires on that and should perform well. So I had recently looked at the Aurora with the RTX 3090 in it. So this is going to be the Radeon 5800X instead. So a bit more reasonable of a build and a much more reasonable price. So very excited to look at it.
Cool. Yeah. They always build some good stuff, the folks at Alienware, and an all AMD version of the Aurora. Is that a first? I think that may be a first for all AMD. I know they've done AMD CPU, but GPU too.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'll have to go look and see if it's the first all AMD build or not.
We'll figure it out. Guaranteed. I almost guarantee it. And then, I've got a couple of things coming in. I've got a certain ROG phone from the folks at Asus that will be special. Can't talk too much about that yet. And some laptops, actually. I think a laptop from Asus that will be Ryzen powered as well. Ryzen 5000 series powered. So lots of good stuff coming and lots to talk about in the news. Let's dive in, shall we?
We shall.
Okay, cool. Hey, so Legendary, this one's could be for you, Marco, because I think you're the one that dug this one up. Legendary 3DFX Voodoo 5 6000. We're going to burn through some news headlines and then get to the meat. But the news headlines are interesting. Legendary 3DFX Voodoo 5 6000 gets modern revamp, an amazing reverse engineering effort. I could not believe my eyes, but this thing looked like a brand new 3DFX Voodoo 5 6000, right?
Well, basically is, and it's completely custom. So there's a little backstory on this card. There's a guy named Anthony who builds these really cool custom 3DFX cards. Huge 3DFX fan. Got himself banned from the X3DFX group because too many people talking about this card. But whatever. that's backstory. So what he did is really cool. If the Voodoo 5 6000 never actually launched, officially, that was a straight. Just a standalone graphics card with 4 VSA 100 chips would have been the most powerful Voodoo card, but the company went under. That's in its history. But what Anthony did was reverse engineered the Voodoo 5 6000, made it a PCI pass-through card like a Voodoo 2 or Voodoo 1, so that if you're doing a retro build, you can have a different card for 2D or different card for DirectX games, but have the performance of a Voodoo 5 6000 for Glide. Really cool, completely custom. He's got it working 100% just like a Voodoo 5 6000, which is to say not perfect because the drivers were never completed, but ongoing project, really cool to see, especially if you're a longtime nerd like me.
Boy, I tell you, for those of you who aren't familiar, 3DFX predates certainly NVIDIA, and folks from 3DFX actually ended up at NVIDIA eventually. Brian Burke used to be with 3DFX. He's over there at NVIDIA now, been there forever. I'm at
Hot Hardware because of 3DFX.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, you were at a site that was dedicated to 3DFX graphics cards back in the day. It was a fan site, and it was good to hook up with you through that. But man, I tell you, what's old is new again for sure, and lots of really cool nostalgic stuff being done in retro hardware these days. This ought to tickle your fancy a little bit, Chris. I was wondering what you thought about this headline. Surge in carjackings has Chicago politician calling for a grand theft auto ban.
I mean, do I have to give my opinion? Like, is that going to be a real out there opinion that?
I asked your opinion.
Whatever
Chris.
you're feeling, brother.
You're on the
however
hot
you
seat.
feel about it.
Politicians are going to do what politicians are going to do, and that's seldom anything that makes sense. So, I'm sure there's a lot of factors contributing to a rise in carjackings, not the least of which is this whole pandemic situation we find ourselves in, access to education, resources. I don't think how many year old was that 2015 when GTA 5 came out? Six-year-old game, something
like that. Something like that. Close enough.
I don't think that's suddenly contributing to a rise in carjackings, but I don't have the hard evidence right in front of me, so I can't state that for certain. I'm sure the politician knows better.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's just crazy. I'm sure they learned how to carjack well before GTA 5. Just a guess.
Yeah, I mean, I learned when I was 12. What are these politicians doing?
Put the red wire in.
You were carjacking back when it was NES, right?
You weren't. We didn't even call it carjacking back then.
Beautiful stuff. Oh, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, isn't it, folks? Unbelievable. AMD investigates USB flakiness with PCI Express 4 and 500 series chipsets. Here are some possible fixes. So we actually put this up as a little bit of a public service announcement. It has been floating around the Reddit webs, if you will, for months now. Folks reporting when they have a PCI Express 4 based GPU in the slot, actually USB ports are flaking out once in a while. I actually had it happen to me. I've had it happen to me on my X570 gigabyte motherboard. I have an X570 Master and RTX 3080 in the slot, and I have had USB ports drop out. Sometimes I'll boot, my keyboard and mouse will not function. I'll have to disconnect and reconnect them. I had actually a killer NIC that I was testing, an external USB-C NIC, a 2.5 gigabit NIC, flaked out once on me as well. So I've seen it. I don't know if it's related. We thought it was probably a combination of AGISA updates that you need to apply for your BIOS, as well as maybe driver updates, Windows updates perhaps as well. Some combination of firmware, software update that hasn't reached certain users. But Marco, your thoughts on this, because I know you tinkered around with it, or at least explored some of the fixes people were coming up with, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be tricky because even people with the exact same hardware as people reporting the problem, there's tons of comments saying, hey, this doesn't happen to me. So I think this is going to be like a rare corner case where certain, power supplies of a certain level with memory with a certain timing and, graphics cards, PCIe 4 graphics cards that are maybe perhaps slightly out of spec, or motherboard PCIe, BIOS settings slightly out of spec, who knows? But if you look through all the comments, the one fix that seemed to, resolve the issues for almost everybody was dropping the PCI Express 4 settings to PCI Express 3. So it's something related to that. But it's still unclear exactly what's going on. There was also some reports from users with gigabyte motherboards that it was fixed with a BIOS update back in December. I forget which AGISA was used in that BIOS update. But it's all, there's no clear answer just yet. But I suspect AMD will get to the bottom of it. It's probably just a matter of tweaking some timings, in BIOSes for X570 or X500 series motherboards.
Yeah. And I guess the moral of the story there is that, for a while, AMD hadn't said anything about it. I think probably they weren't aware that it was becoming a more widespread issue, that a lot of users were reporting it. But now they have acknowledged it. They gave us an official statement. Check out the article. Did I drop it in there? Yes, I did. It's in the chat, and you can see the statement. They are investigating it to see if they can root cause, identify the issue. Chris, have you seen this? I know you've got a few AMD systems kicking around over there.
I haven't encountered it myself, no, at least not on any AMD systems. My work laptop actually drops USB all the time. That's an Intel-based HP system. Don't quite know what's going on there. I haven't had enough time to really kick it around and figure out that. So we won't say USB issues are ever exclusive to AMD either. They come and go in systems for various reasons, but it definitely does seem like there's at least an uptick in the issues with the boards we're seeing.
Yeah. And again, I've seen it. I have seen the issue. So hopefully all my stuff will stay hooked up while I'm talking to you right now. But actually, my system's been pretty darn stable for a long time. But I did see it early on. All right. So, anyways, let's move on to one more thing that's AMD related, and that's the AMD Ryzen 7000. There's a new model branding for you. Zen 4 Phoenix rumors run wild with PCIe 5 and DDR5, all the fives support. I think it's important to underscore the word rumors with that. Marco, what do you know about this one? I didn't really didn't parse the tea leaves on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of it's probably it's not rumor. It's next gen Zen 4 will use DDR5. I'm pretty sure AMD has has verified that. And PCI Express 5, it's just makes sense that the next gen platforms will have it. I'm not sure what else you can glean from that. We know Zen 4 is on track. We know, it's coming. We know AMD's been working on it for a long time. And, as we saw with, the current mobile processors, the Ryzen 3000 series mobile processors, 5000 series mobile processors, those were in like development. They had already taped out when the 4000 series shipped. Right. So AMD is on working at a rapid clip right now. So we'll find out for sure exactly what's coming with those soon enough. I'm fairly confident. But other than that, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Zen 4 with DDR5 and PCIe 5.
Yeah. And the scuttlebutt is it's 5 nanometer process node of some sort. The code name is Phoenix. Navi graphics in the case of an APU. 2022 release. This is all just rumor and speculation right now, but it's always fun to speculate and rumorize, right?
Absolutely.
Just take it with a dose of reality salt to go with it.
That's it.
Yeah, man. And Chris, this one might be good for you because I know you delve into the land of Destiny 2. Destiny 2 Season of the Chosen. And I think your betrothed wrote this guide.
Yes, she did.
Fabulous Brittany Getting. A how-to guide for the Dead Man's Tale presage mission? I don't even know how to say that. Presage.
Is what I would say anyway.
Okay.
It means alluding to events that haven't unfolded yet.
Oh, yeah.
Something
I've never used that's a good word. That's a vocabulary word of the day. Go ahead.
Yeah, you learn things playing games. But yeah, anyway, so this is a mission that's kind of secret to start. I mean, there's no big quest marker quite telling you where to go. But if you go and read the how-to article, you of course do get that how to do it. But at the end of the mission, I don't want to give any spoilers because it is a really cool and kind of creepy mission. But you do get a new exotic scout rifle called the Dead Man's Tale that is a lot of fun. If you get precision, critical hits, as most games would call them, precision hits repeatedly, you just start doing more and more damage. So, and then it also helps you reload faster. So it's just a very nice and handy gun to have. It's fun to play. It plays a little bit of the, I can't think of the name of the Wild West.
Old Western kind of thing. Anyway.
Yeah, specifically, but I'm not going to try to sing it. But anyways, it plays that for a bit as you're getting precision shots. You get that little cowboy feel to it, which is always nice when you're a space wizard, shooting aliens. But it's fun.
Amen. I think we should make you sing it though, Chris.
I don't want to see our viewer count drop to 0. No.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, Destiny 2. You guys delve into that a lot. Hopefully you'll be able to see some Destiny 2 live streaming with Brittany and Chris on the Twitches real soon. Hey, Marco, those kids are having fun over there. Are they
my gosh,
enjoying our cast? I hope at least.
That's just Sophie. It's just Sophie watching her Clifford videos. Whatever.
That's awesome, man. They gotta have fun. Kids gotta have fun. So nothing wrong with that.
It's phenomenal when kids, are truly happy like Sophie. When you're a dad trying to work in the next room and you've been hearing that for 4 hours, not so much.
Yeah. I can relate.
It beats sudden silence.
That's it.
No, it's true. That's
it. No, the work from home reality. We've always worked from home, but the reality of the day. Now the kids are home all the time.
I've been lucky. Like my kids actually are in school full time, but Sophie's class had an exposure last week, so she's distance learning this week. She's been here all week, and it's been fun.
fun. Well, hey, you just roll with it. And Chris, just taking a step back on the Destiny 2 thing, I'm thinking this gun's name is a little bit off. Like somebody's coining oxymorons, because dead men tell no tales, Chris. We all know that.
Well, in some universes, yes, and I don't know if the dead man in this particular tale is going to do much speaking himself, but the environment there has a lot of story to tell.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. We'll go with that. All right, cool. And then before we dig into the meat, we're going to get to Apple M1 Max chewing up SSDs and GeForce RTX 3060 and maybe even some mining GPUs too. Intel Core i5 11400 Rocket Lake CPU annihilates, I tell you. Its 10th gen predecessor in benchmark leak. Now, is this another Geekbench freaking extraordinaire, which I am almost sick and tired of seeing that benchmark right now? Yes, it's Geekbench, when Geekbench 5 and some serious multi-core and single core performance. Any takeaways from that worth mentioning, Marco? And I do see that it is actually in the database and code in 11th gen and all the good steppings and whatnot. It seems legit.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be pretty obvious that Rocket Lake is going to have much better single thread, much better multi-core scaling, and it should blow away a 10th gen desktop processor, because yeah, so no surprise. I'm not sure how much we can glean from engineering samples that obviously aren't ready, and what kind of clocks they're doing, and who's tweaking what and what motherboard to post those scores. Some of these leaks are strategic, You think it's accidental, that somebody at a motherboard manufacturer accidentally had a test machine hooked up to the web, but it's not. So who knows?
Yeah,
I think Rocket Lake is going to arrive sooner rather than later. We'll know 100 for sure soon enough. But yeah, I fully expect Rocket Lake S to kick ass in single thread relative to any previous gen Intel processor, and multi-threaded scaling should be good.
Geekbench is also a bit strategic with how they're going about it, because correct me if I'm wrong, but by default with Geekbench, if you're on the free trial key, which most people are using, it's going to upload your scores automatically. You've got to actually have a license and manually disable that setting. So you get these leaks out there, it gets Geekbench's name out there. It's marketing.
Yeah, good leaks is good as any marketing, right? So to speak. Hey, I got to share this out. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Go to application window, and yeah, there we go. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on that too, because that is just cool. Did we show this when we talked about it?
We did not.
No, we didn't. We got to remember to share out the images there. This is the 3DFX Voodoo 56000 modern revamp. What's crazy is this guy it's a full up PCB design, man. That thing is brand spanking new.
Oh yeah. Actually every component is new. You can still buy new VSA 100 chips from the 3DFX liquidation.
No kidding. You can still
they're on eBay. You can buy a whole tray.
That is some cool stuff right there. That is cool. I don't know why you'd never build a graphics card like that these days, but it's cool. It's nostalgically cool. So
because you can.
It would just be called a chiplet and be on a single package.
Yeah. Good stuff right there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully it'll stop. How do I, click it again. There we go. Beautiful. Hey, it's like we know what we're doing almost with this new StreamYard stuff. Good stuff, StreamYard. It's working. All right, let's move on to the themes of the day, the major themes of the day. Actually, looks like we got a quote, or excuse me, a question in the chat. Is the M1 SSD lifespan worries for Big Sur writing more data than previous Mac OS versions? That is an interesting question. Let's drop the headline link into the chat. Apple M1 Mac users report. A user reports his SSD is getting eaten alive. Are you affected? Now, looks like Periscope didn't get that comment, but everybody else did. That's fine. Sorry about that, Periscope viewers. At any rate, yeah. So there was a user in this Reddit thread that we picked up, and there were other users in the thread as well that were reporting significant amount of data written since they've owned the Mac. So this one user, the outlier, we will say, reported 150 terabytes written to his SSD. I'm not recalling. I'd have to pull it up and have it in front of me if it was a MacBook or a Mac Mini. But regardless, it wasn't.
I think it was a Pro.
Was a Pro MacBook Pro?
It was a Pro.
Okay, but it was an M1 Mac, and based on the new Apple Silicon, and essentially 150 terabytes written, which we assumed to be since he's owned the machine. And then other users were reporting what we would say are significantly high write frequencies on the SSD. And then we had one of our guys, Ben Funk, who actually wrote this up. He has an M1 Mac Mini. We had him check his out, and I think his was more in the 4 to 10 terabytes written, which is nothing too alarming. But the moral of the story is that some of these Macs tend to be writing a significant amount of data to their SSDs. We know for a fact that Apple's M1 architecture does a heck of a lot of caching with RAM. You can see sometimes where it consumes, depending on what applications is running, almost all of the available memory will dedicate to a certain process at times. So they cache the heck out of it. So Apple's doing some very creative things in terms of performance optimization with this platform, it seems. What's concerning about this terabyte written issue is, especially if you consider the fact that these SSDs on all of them are completely soldered to the board. So if that SSD dies, you have a brick. What are your thoughts about this, Marco? Because it was interesting, and we don't want to be alarmist because this guy seemed like an outlier, but is there something here?
I think there's something there. And that insane outlier is one thing, right? And then, Ben's diving into the issue is more common where we see lower writes, but there were plenty of comments from people in the 50, 60, 70, so about half as much as the outlier.
And these systems aren't that old.
Right, and these systems are a few months old. So if they continue at that pace and the SSD has a 1200 terabyte written endurance, you're months away from exceeding the rated endurance of those SSDs. Should that SSD fail, you're completely screwed, right? You may get a warning. We don't know because the machines are new and we're not sure how Big Sur handles a SSD failure, what have you. But worst case scenario is you're humming along with what you think is your fairly new MacBook and the SSD dies and you're completely screwed because now you can't use the machine at all, can't swap the drive. Even if you were a super nerd, had a stack of M1s next to you and you went to solder the chip out of a donor motherboard into yours, it probably wouldn't even work because the chips are keyed to the processors, assuming Apple's doing the same thing with the MacBooks that they do with an iPhone. If you watch like some of Louis Rossman's videos, he's very big on right to repair, and he exposes lots of these little Apple tricks that Apple does to prevent repairs, even with genuine parts from donor boards. So it's not a big stretch to think Apple's doing that with a MacBook. And, because of the caching and because of the limited RAM available on these machines, they're doing lots more swapping to the drive. There's a possibility that something got through Q&A or through not Q&A. What the heck's the word? I'm so freaking tired of it. The qualification.
Yeah. Yeah, you were right. QA.
That causes these machines to fail, within a year at this pace.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think people should be concerned. You should check your drives and then look into your software complement if you're getting those kind of crazy writes on an M1 Mac.
Now, could there be another possibility that the number being reported as bytes written just isn't right?
Sure. Could be.
Yep. Yeah, it could very well be. And the other thing to note, actually, that Ben, I'm not sure if he reported it in this piece. I'd have to dig through it again. But Ben notes that you can boot externally on some M1 Macs. I think the Mini you can. I'm not sure. I don't think the notebooks you can. So, for example, if you wanted to try and salvage a mini, you could boot on an external USB device, have a bootable volume on an external USB device. But I think that's only the mini. I'm pretty sure the notebooks don't allow that. So yeah, Ben mentioned that to me in conversation after this, but it's it's alarming. I mean, to see this level of write activity on SSDs, and these days SSDs are significantly more reliable than they were back when they first came into the market. I would argue, I don't think anybody would disagree, probably, that they're more reliable than a hard drive. They're not prone to mechanical failure. They're solid state. Thank God for that. And they're way faster. Thank God for that. But yeah, man, it's like, especially if it's soldered to a board. Now, 99% of the Windows machines on the market don't have a soldered SSD. There are a few. Dell's XPS 13 2-in-1, not the clamshell. Ben pointed out to me, has a soldered SSD, and we were like, geez, surprised to hear that. You just run a risk. The nice thing is, sure, if your SSD dies, you're going to lose your data. Hopefully you were smart enough to back it up in the cloud. But in a laptop, if the SSD dies and it's an M2 socket, bang, simple switch. You put a new drive in, restore your data, and you're good to go. You're dead in the water.
Especially when MacBooks, I'm pretty sure they still have the feature where you can basically restore your operating system over the air from your BIOS. So, you pop a new drive, you boot it up into BIOS, and you just restore it over a internet connection.
I think, and I don't know if I'm being fair in this, but I think Apple is probably, and this is what's interesting, because this is a company that prides itself on eco-friendly, being good for the environment, and doing things that are holistically good for everybody. This is a company that historically has also been very, what's the word I'm looking for, casual about e-waste. In other words, they don't like right to repair. Bring it to us, and if we have to get you a new one, so be it. We sell some more widgets, we sell some more bubbles, and whether it's an iPhone or a laptop or whatever. And this is kind of more of the same. This is an e-waste problem. This is an e-waste problem waiting to happen if they have an SSD problem.
Well, they like to make a show of their fixes. I remember one of the iPhone presentations, they had this whole demonstration with this robot and this fancy camera work showing it spinning around, pulling the iPhone apart and parting it to pieces. But how often does that actually work? And how often are people actually turning in their iPhones to have it sent through that process when they're done with it? Yeah. Probably not many still, but
yeah.
They make a good show of it anyway.
Well, I applaud having that set up. I applaud, some of the activities that manufacturers do to show, not only show, but act on environmental concerns. As a matter of fact, funny story. I got a box out of nowhere from Dell just before Christmas, and it was a box, an empty box. And, it's Dell, Dave Altavilla, Hot Hardware. And I'm like, it's an empty box. Somebody stole my thing, right? And I went to Marco, and Marco's like, dummy, it's for your recyclables. It had a return ship label in it. And I could have just chucked some phones in there, whatever I had kicking around. It was a pretty good sized box, nothing huge. But Dell was saying, hey, put your recycles in there. Here's a prepaid shipping label. I don't know how widely they do this. Here's a prepaid shipping label. Ship us back your stuff. We'll recycle it properly for you. Thought that was pretty good. Simple.
Yep, that was pretty cool. That was a surprise too. We didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, like,
evidently.
Where's my present? Damn it! Nope, just the return box. That's good stuff. So, anyways,
I have to give a quick hello to Charles, who just commented on the Facebook chat. Chuck is a longtime friend of mine. Grew up together.
So
Charles, I just want to say, Charles. Chuck, saw your comment. What's up, Charles?
Good to see you, Charles. I've met Charles. He's a good guy. Chuck. All right, cool. Anything else on that before we step on to the big event?
I think we beat that up enough.
Okay. Yeah. Keep an eye on that. We will be watching that. Honestly, if they do start having issues with SSDs, it has all the makings of class action. And again, not trying to be alarmist, but hopefully this is just an outlier. It's not a trend. It's not something that 6 months, a year from now, things are failing and people are going, what? My whole system's dead? Yes. You got to replace the motherboard. Have a nice day. Interesting. All right. Anyways, let's move on to NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3060. And also, we'll mention before we dive into that real quick, NVIDIA launches dedicated CMP HX mining GPUs to free up GeForce RTX 30 for gamers. Let's start with that one.
So they say.
Yeah. All right. Let's be balanced here, right? Give them the benefit of the doubt to start. But let's dig into that because that's an interesting topic before we get to the 3060. Dedicated mining GPUs to free up GeForce RTX 3060s for gamers, gimping the 3060 hash rate on the Ethereum algorithm. Okay. So very bold moves, which, not necessarily individually, but in tandem with each other, in concert with each other, really trying to make a statement that, hey, we're concerned about this lack of availability for gamers. And, the fact that mining, the mining industry is consuming GPUs and we want to make cards available for gamers. And also, hey, make some product available for miners as well. Hopefully a yield loss mitigation strategy that they can recover GPUs that didn't make the cut as 3060s or some other GPU in NVIDIA's lineup. Didn't make a GeForce GPU cut, didn't make that cut, but good enough to mine. So, productize them. That's the message and the reality that NVIDIA is putting forth on the surface. What do you guys think about the reality behind the scenes and what this all means? Because there's been, obviously, we've heard Linus talk pretty boldly about it and a few others. What do you think? I take it for face value, and it is what it is. Go ahead, Chris. I know you're itching to jump in.
I haven't watched what anyone else, Linus or anyone, has had to say. I've seen the video thumbnails. My part's kind of two things. Like, A, is that really not impacting chip production of the other SKUs to create the mining cards? I mean, silicon's pretty limited. I get that they're, qualification issues, whatever. They're using chips that maybe aren't otherwise going to be used, but is that so? And also for miners, part of the appeal of, using a GPU is when you're done mining with it, you can sell it to a gamer and you can make some money back on it that way. Where once you've used up a mining chip and it's no longer profitable for you, it's not going to be profitable to anyone you sell it to, and they're not going to get any real use out of it. Back to our e-waste issue on that, it's just going to go in the trash most likely. And third is you have the gamers who will use mining when they're not gaming to offset the cost of their fancy new GPU. So, you're telling them basically you can't do that anymore because I guess the full-time miners have ruined their fun. I don't know. I don't like the artificial limitation. I'm happy to be a bit harsh on it.
All right. Marco, I know you want to jump in. I'll just give my 30-second devil's advocate on that. Sure. And I would offer that a 3060 in that price segment, in that price band, is more likely, not that it doesn't happen, is more likely to have a user base that doesn't mine. They're more mainstream gamers. They're looking for a lower price point to get into an RTX class, something that's capable of ray tracing, RTX class GPU, and they're less likely to mine. A 3070, 80 owner, probably more likely to mine. That's my opinion. I don't think we have empirical data on that, obviously, but I think that's probably a fair assessment to make.
I mean, what price can you actually reasonably get a 3060 at right now? Because it's not going to be MSRP.
You have to go with MSRP though. I mean, I know what reality is, but how else do you measure the intent on? If assuming we get by this shortage at some point in the future this year, maybe. The other thing I'd offer is on the yield side of it or the resource constraint side of it, it's not silicon that is a limiter right now. It's substrates. We've heard that. And the qualification process with an NVIDIA, I don't think is a limiting factor as well. Silicon, access to silicon, certainly. But the actual, if there's yield loss, and we all know that as a product matures, there's less loss over time. So there'll be theoretically less volume available to go to mining dedicated GPUs. So those are just some, counter thoughts about that. In reality, I don't think qualifying a card that only does mining is a big resource constraint on NVIDIA, with the exception of what we don't know is the actual reality of the yield loss and what they're capitalizing on, which they'll never tell. No semiconductor company ever tells you what their yields are. You're just never going to get that data. So, all right, with Marco, what thoughts?
Set it straight.
The reality is probably somewhere between you two, because news broke today that throws a wrench in NVIDIA's whole narrative, right? There's always going to be some. There's never 100% yield. There's always going to be chips that you could, recover from a wafer and use for a different application if some part of it is broken, right? If it turns out, there's X number of GPUs that would have never made it into a GeForce 3060 that will make it into a mining card, then it won't impact availability. All it does is help NVIDIA's bottom line, which, the fact is that's what they're supposed to do. They're not here for out of the kindness of their heart to give everybody products. I know no one wants to hear that, but that's the truth. Yeah, it's a business. You wouldn't have GPUs if they weren't making money and spending, That said, news broke today that these cards could be based on Turing, which puts the whole 3060 connection out the window, which means the narrative was smoke. We don't know if that's true yet, right? It was a rumor. But if I was in NVIDIA's shoes, right, and I was releasing a card like the 3060, if you look at Steam right now, the most popular card on Steam is still the 1060. The 3060 2-3 years from now is likely to be that card. And if you want to make sure as many gamers as possible can get this and you retain that position with gamers, you try something to mitigate miners getting it and make it easier for gamers to get it. This was their strategy. Is it the right one? We don't know. There was obviously going to be people on both sides of the fence. If it comes out that the CMP GPUs are Turing, though, NVIDIA's got a lot of explaining to do. So yeah. I think I'm okay with them artificially limiting hash rates on this particular card. Everyone speculated that's going to come to all the other cards. That's most likely not going to happen because there was a change at the silicon level. If what we were told is true, they're not going to roll out firmware updates for all the cards and potentially risk, support nightmares. And NVIDIA, Brian Del Rizzo from NVIDIA stated he was replying to a tweet from Ryan from a non-tech saying that there's BIOS level, firmware level, silicon level, and software level, driver level tweaks here to limit the hash rates and be very difficult to hack. So, yeah, that's not likely to just roll out to existing cards. So if NVIDIA is just trying this with this launch because this card is going to be super popular with gamers, probably the best time to experiment with a strategy like this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they were trying to do something. You have to think about the motivation behind limiting hash rate on a product. That's an individual act in and of itself. That what's the motivation other than hopefully making it less attractive to miners? I can't think of one, right? Of another motivation. The other thing about the Turing thing, I don't think that's a big deal, honestly. So what if they are Turing? They're putting a product in the market to create demand.
If they're using production capacity on Turing chips.
Well, no.
If they're sitting on Turing chips, that's one thing.
Right. But if it's Turing Fallout, it's still adding demand to a specific product that's not for gamers. Go ahead, Mark.
Perfectly fine. If NVIDIA didn't explicitly state this won't limit 3060 availability because we're harvesting GPUs that wouldn't make the cut. If that's not the case, that whole narrative was a fabrication, if it's Turing.
I don't think they said 3060. I think they said these are GPUs that don't make a GeForce cut. I don't think they said 3060.
Okay, I mean that's a subtlety that is then I don't know. I don't know how to. The way it was pitched with this launch, I think most people are
simultaneously
assuming it's 3060s that would never be a 3060.
Right. Yep. Well, we'll have to see how this all plays out. It's interesting. Again, I don't know how much you can, and that's the thing. We can sit here and chew on the minutia all day long, and everybody, in the community, everybody does. Linus, I'm saying him again, very passionate about it, and I love his passion, about about lots of things in tech. But I think it's kind of like, they're a for-profit company. And they're trying to do some different things to address a market dynamic. So, and you can't get, are you going to be critical on them about the e-waste, that critical? I mean, on the e-waste problem, because let's face it, e-waste is everywhere. And there's, you can point at a number of different things like we just talked about with the Apple M1 MacBooks and the potential e-waste issue there. I don't know, I don't. I give him more of a pass than the average critic does, I think. But it's just, I don't know. I think there's some over analytics there. I think obviously NVIDIA is a very savvy company, profit driven company. They're doing well for a reason because they're very aggressive. But can you blame them for being aggressive? I don't know. Yeah,
and what do you do? Do you limit availability and only have a lottery to get cards? Like, do you limit anyone from buying in quantity if it's not going direct to a partner? I'm sure there's some things you could do to help gamers get the cards without limiting hash rate. But it's a difficult question. It's a difficult situation, and at least they did something, right?
Right.
Was it the right thing? We don't know. We got to see how it plays out, right?
Right.
So, we'll see. I'm also, I think I'm okay with limiting the hash rate on the 3060 on this particular card. I'm okay with this experiment for now. Completely bifurcating GeForces and mining cards, I might not be cool with that. But I don't know. I'm still digesting it. I haven't fully made up my mind.
If the reality is that these are, dead nuts, whether they're Ampere or Turing, dead nuts, waste, like yield. If this is truly yield mitigation, loss mitigation, that otherwise these things probably would have gone in the silicon recycle, ground up, maybe to be used another day. That's great, but we'll never know what that mix looks like. We just never go ahead, Chris.
There's still concerns for miners for that because they're looking for hash rate per watt, basically. And if these are, not to say damaged chips, but they're not fully featured chips because they've had to disable pieces for whatever reason. Maybe they're not the most power efficient version of that chip either, and so then that's going to hurt their attractiveness to miners potentially. Or maybe by stripping away the other features, they get that efficiency back. I don't know, but that's something else to consider.
I will say this, and then we need to move on to the 3060 and finish up here, but because the 3060 is interesting stuff. I will say this: I spent the better part of 20 years in the semiconductor industry as a sales engineer. I worked directly for a fab for 10 of those years, and the bigger the die, the higher the defect density per wafer there is. And so that is significant and huge when you talk about large GPU dies. They are large die. And when you talk about die geometries that are now down at 7 nanometer, 10 nanometer, think about how fine that geometry is, how tight that is, and the size of the die and the potential for defect density. The yield loss is significant. So with that said, yield loss comes in a lot of different ways. Does it not make the cut for, some spec with leakage current? There's a number of different things that cause something not to qualify. fall out. And if they sold it as something, that it was supposed to do and it didn't make the cut, and somebody ended up having a card fail, then they have returns, and that's way more expensive. So that's a very big reality, and especially when it comes to large GPU die. They're big honking slabs of silicon, some of the biggest in the industry.
Yep.
For what it's worth. All right, cool. Let's move on to the GeForce RTX 3060 review. NVIDIA's most affordable Ampere yet. Marco, you dove into this in painstaking detail, and tons of benchmarks, as always, copious benchmarks. Falls somewhere around the performance of a RTX 2060 Super. That's important. Not a plain 2060. Right around a 2060 Super performance level. Trading blows. Sometimes a little faster, especially if you're doing ray tracing. There it is. There, beautiful card from EVGA. What's the story, man?
Let me give you the story quickly. Though we had a couple of questions that we missed. We had Oscar ask, how many mining specific cards could NVIDIA make? We'll never probably know the exact number, but I'm sure it's a lot. And then we had Ben ask if we could get NVIDIA back on the live stream, and I am sure that we can do that at some point. We didn't reach out this week because we've been working flat out, but we can absolutely do that. That's actually part of the plan to continue building audience on here, is to have more guests. So yes, we will try, Ben. We will definitely try to get someone from NVIDIA on, which brings me to this guy. And a problem I just realized with my feed is I have to learn how to flip my video. But there is the reversed, the very cool EVGA GeForce 3060 XC. Let's give you a couple of different views. Oh, backwards, nice. So nice little small card. It's only 7.94 inches long. Actually a 2-slot card, not a big beefy, triple slot card. Really quiet, runs nice and cool. I think while overclocking, GPU only hit like max was like 71 degrees. It was basically nothing. So nothing to worry about, I should say. In terms of the specs, if we were to compare the 3060 to the 2060 previous gen, we go from 1920 CUDA cores on a 2060 to 3584 on the 3060. There's 112 third gen tensor cores. That's a lower number than the tensor cores on a RTX 2060, but they're a totally new generation. Same with the RT cores. There's 30 RT cores on the 2060. There's 28 on here, but again, a generation newer. 112 texture units, 48 ROPS. The typical GPU boost clock, 1777 megahertz. I actually saw this card stock boosting higher. It was like a 1890-ish in that range. And the real interesting feature, they're coming with 12 gigs of GDDR6, which is double a 2060, but it's also 50% more than a 3060 Ti and 2 gigs more than a 3080. So, NVIDIA is being a little forward-looking, or maybe this is foreshadowing some new GeForces coming that may have more memory. We've been hearing about that for a while. But, all told, the 3060 is interesting. Now, if you already have, even some of the cheapest basic RTX 2060s, 2060 Supers, you're probably not going to be too interested in this. So versus a 2060, it's probably like a 10-15% uptick in performance, maybe a little more than that. Versus a 2060 Super, they really trade blows. If you were to crank resolutions up, this would probably win more often than not, but the games kind of don't become playable, so that's not really a good metric. But if you're the type that has a 1060, if you're one of those Steam gamers that has a 1060, still the most popular card, it's a massive upgrade. You're talking double the memory, essentially double the rasterization performance, opens up the door to ray tracing for you, opens up the door to all this new cool NVIDIA software, that they've released for Ampere. And in that regard, I really like the 3060 at its MSRP. 329 is the base MSRP. All the partner boards that are overclocked, it's obviously going to go up from there. But you can't buy them at that MSRP right now, so stuff's all over the map. I went to go check pricing, as I do, right before I'm writing my conclusions, and I think I saw RX 5700 Radeons going for $1,400 and 2060 Supers going for $2,000. I'm like, what is going on? So basically, pointless to compare on price. If you force yourself to look at MSRPs, It's the best card at the $330 price point, though.
Dave, you muted.
Sorry, I was actually I took a sip of beer and I had to burp, so I muted. Please excuse me. It is beer 30. That what's crazy is that when we review these products, we have to go by MSRP. You can't judge them on a level playing field by looking at what is in the market today and what the retail price is. So it makes it really difficult for folks like us to pass judgment on a product. Here's what it does. Here's the features, performance at a certain price point and availability. Yeah. Only thing we can do is say the cards are on the market, today, next week, whenever the manufacturer says they're coming, and at this manufacturer, this MSRP, this price point. And that's all we can do. But it's like, man, the way the market is now, it's a mess. And I don't know, what's a $329 RTX 3060? How do you judge that in the current landscape? It's like super difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy inflated prices kind of scale. So at the crazy inflated price that all GPUs are at in this card's class, it's a good card, right? Yeah. Versus the typical upgrade. Now we're all super enthusiast psychos, upgrade way more often than the average person, right? If you're the type that you're not a super computer gaming nerd and you have anything like below, Chris, if there's because I'm going to screw up StreamYard. I didn't learn how to use it like these guys. Can you go to the bottom of page 3 and show that chart that's there, the gen over gen?
Let me find it.
I can share if you want.
Yeah, go to the bottom of page 3 because this is the one chart that summarizes the whole review well, right?
Gen over gen.
Yeah, the gen over gen chart. Yeah. So if you look at these numbers, right, this is 1060, 1660 Ti, 2060 Super, 3060, 4 games, 1080p resolution, right? If you look at the perf from 1060 and 1660 to a 3060, it's a massive jump for both cards, right? So if you're on anything below, and this is a 1660 Ti, right? So one of the higher end 1660s. Anything below that, the 3060 is a big upgrade and it gets you a ton of new features, right? Above that, it's muddied, right? So NVIDIA didn't build this card to get 2060 users to upgrade. They built it for 1060 users to upgrade. And in that view, it succeeds, right? It's a good card. Yeah. $599 for a 3060 like Ben's asking. I would not spend $600, but in this current landscape, $600 is probably a bargain, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Oscar Castillo, Chris, you can feature this one. Oscar Castillo says, I broke down and bought a Dell G5 Gaming with a 3070 just for the GPU and sold the rest on eBay. It's the only way to get near MSRP.
This is true.
That's a baller move right there.
Yeah. I'm assuming the G5 he's speaking of is a tower of some sort. And that's what's crazy is we actually it happened to be a Dell system as well. We actually did a Dell XPS special edition desktop review a few weeks back, and we've been doing this for 20 years at Hot Hardware, and so we know the types of products and the traffic that is associated when we launch an article with the type of product. This was the most trafficked desktop review we've done in a long time. It was hammered with views. And I think it's because people are like, hey, it's got a 3080 in it. Holy crap.
Well, I hate to break two things to you. One, we've been doing this 22 years.
Oh, geez. I'm getting even older. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And there was a 3070 in that system.
Oh, whatever.
No, I'm just kidding.
And it was a 30 something. And yeah, we've been doing this too long. So I forget things now. Go figure. But yeah, no, it's what a crazy, nutty dynamic. Folks are buying desktop systems so that they can get the GPU and then they're parting the rest out because they already have a system. I mean, that's just nuts.
Hey, if the economics make it happen, why not?
Well, there's a will, there's a way. So anything else with respect to this? What's your bottom line? I guess I would say, Marco, on this this card, RTX 3060. If you're, I think you netted it out at the end. Is if you're in an RTX 20 series GPU now, not a lot of motivation to upgrade to 30 series with this GPU. What are your thoughts beyond that, just in general?
Yeah, I think 1660 on down, Radeon 5600 class on down. If you're looking for the most affordable way to get into a card that enables ray tracing with a nice big frame buffer, potentially maybe a little bit of future proofing in there, it's a good card if you can get it close to MSRP. My gut tells everybody save your money and wait for the mining craziness to cool off. It looks like maybe it's going to happen. We'll see. We know that these cycles don't last forever. So I don't know. I hate what's happening in the PC space, because in terms of the hardware, there's really been like no better time to find some really cool stuff, and there's awesome stuff on the way. You just can't get it at MSRP, and it's unavailable everywhere, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I would offer also just in terms of when this chip supply shortage issue could begin to alleviate. I was actually on a call with Dr. Lisa Su, CEO of AMD, and her comment was more relative to the supply chain for semiconductors, specifically substrates, which are one of the major gating items right now in terms of the shortage. And she said it looks like second half of this year things should ease up. Now that's a very informed person, obviously, with straight on day by day pulse of what's going on in that supply issue. But things change on a dime. So that's what she had said a couple of weeks ago. Who knows what this looks like as the market continues to evolve? That can change too.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to highlight Ben's comment real quick, saying EVGA is promising to honor MSRP until April, but that does depend on you having the fastest click out there.
But one more cool thing EVGA is doing, though, Jacob from EVGA will tweet like a few minutes before cards are going to be available on evga.com, which is pretty cool.
So MSRP will be out there, but it's even with that, you're still in a race. It's still not going to be easy to get. But best of luck to you, and major thumbs up if you do, because
well, and you make a good point. I mean, EVGA, major thumbs up to them for being creative. They're honestly, guys, they're one of the companies who is really good about reaching out to the community, engaging with the community, doing things based on community input. And so I think kudos to them for dreaming that one up. We've been working with EVGA for many years. They're good folks over there. Good regular folks. We like them a lot. 3060 with 12 gigs though seems like you're not gonna hit that frame buffer, and then we'll finish up on this. You're not gonna hit that frame buffer size with this level of performance. It's a 1440p on down kind of GPU, right?
But with the way graphics card prices are right now and how insignificant the cost of memory is relatively, it's kind of a you may as well. And when the other team is throwing a bunch of memory on their cards, why not answer?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it was more reactionary this time on NVIDIA's part to enable it with 12 gigs. When they could have been at 8 gigs rather, and saved a few dollars, maybe made it a $299 card MSRP, which you wouldn't be able to get at that price.
it's
just crazy. Yeah. But so it's an interesting, dynamic. I think you'll start seeing maybe some supers down the road. Nobody said anything. We're not confirming any product that doesn't exist, with higher memory complements, because
just looking at historical trends.
Yeah, because the other guys have 16 gigs across the board on their upper end cards. Interesting stuff. Anything else to add before we sign off, gentlemen?
No, I think we're good. Just to answer Ben's last question, Joe is still at EVGA. Yes.
Joe Darwin. Yeah. Good man. Good man for sure. Hey, everybody seeing this? Let me pull it that way. There we go. This is one of the new Hot Hardware Swank tees. I got my little logo here. I'd flip around. There's a little HH on the back, across the back as well with the URL. Hit the Teespring store. You can, if you're on YouTube, you can see it in the product well. Let me see if I can drop it in the chat. But below the description, you can see our store on YouTube. Let me drop in the chat. I think I got it right here. Boom, Hot Hardware Gear Store on Teespring. That's for some sweet merch. Hit Patreon if you wouldn't mind. That'd be cool if you'd like to sponsor independent publishing. What else am I missing, Marco?
I want to just say, if you're watching this video after the fact, or right now you have some ideas, if you have any ideas for funny, like super cool stuff we can throw on, like PC related geeky t-shirts, let me know and I'll design some graphics and we'll update the store. I would love to have some, you know, just I want the Hot Hardware branding, obviously, but I would also just love some cool, funny stuff to buy. So yeah, just comment on the video and let us know there too.
What was the cat cartoon? There was this cat, this freaky looking cat with two guns in the air, and it was pew pew motherfucker with MADFAKA.
I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah, demonetized.
No, it was with A's. I didn't say the words. It was MADFAKA. Anyways, I thought it was hilarious, and yeah, that could be a good one. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, give us some slogans. Give us some funny things you might want to have on a tee. Send them into the email. News at Hot Hardware works. It gets everybody. If you want to spam us, news@hothardware.com. Where can they find us around the web, Marco?
You can find us at the main site, hothardware.com, YouTube/Hot Hardware, Facebook/Hot Hardware, Twitter, at Hot Hardware. We are all over the place. Instagram. I think it's /Hot Hardware on Instagram too, right, Dave?
Yep.
I don't remember.
Yes, it is.
We're all over the place, but stop by the main site because there's so much more stuff that we don't get to talk about on the cast. Dozens of news stories, tons of reviews. It's just such a good looking damn site. Come to the site and look at it and chat with everybody on the articles. Just look at how pretty, and the photography and the layout. Wow. Yeah. What a website.
I would agree.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
and speaking of which, we should plug our friend Valerie, who is now streaming for us on Twitch. Okay. And we're actually broadcasting now on Twitch, getting a presence on Twitch. We don't have much of an audience now, but we soon will. I believe it's going to be, I know it's every Wednesday between 2 and 4. She'll be game streaming. She's right now doing some COD Warzone action. If you saw her yesterday, she was streaming for us on Twitch. And then I believe it's going to be Sundays, 4 to 6. Don't quote me on that. We're going to nail the schedule down. But Valerie Rojas is going to be our exclusive game streamer extraordinaire. She's a real funny lady. Lots of fun to watch her game, and pretty badass with the sniper rifle, I might add as well. So kind of cool.
I'm gonna start randomly streaming my my breaks with Left 4 Dead 2 because I want to play with some different settings, and I'm literally the worst person to play Left 4 Dead with because I am so good at it that I hate when I'm with noobs and I get so angry. It's funny to watch. So I'm gonna try to stream some more.
Yeah, the angry Left 4 Dead gamer. Chris, you can do some Destiny 2 with Brittany, right?
Yep. And whatever else, if you have games you want to see us play, throw them. We're all ears.
And Blackhawk, I was let out of the home a long time ago, and I'm off my medication. So there you go, buddy. Love that comment. It's always good. Blackhawk, you might not know Nathan Ord is part of the team, and he's just giving me a hard time because I spoke out of turn, but I was just having fun, and I didn't really say if the captions came through, it would be all A's, and it would have been fine. I guarantee it. And I'm from Boston, so everything sounds like A. Park my car, all that stuff.
Oh, there we got a request, and I think Brittany will be the one to take this one because
Stardew Valley, yeah.
Stardew Valley is one of Brittany's all-time favorite games, so we'll see if we can convince her to throw it on the stream.
Cool. Excellent. Wow. If she enjoys it, then I'm sure other folks will as well. And it's a very popular game title. So yeah, maybe we can talk Brittany into that. That'd be great. So with that, we'll bid you adieu, but find us on the web at hothardware.com, twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardwarevids. Hit thumbs up, subscribe, follow, the reminder bell, all that good stuff. Because we want to, let you know when we're going live again, and you'll get some good stuff like reviews and all that. Right, fellas?
Yeah, man.
That's
absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. And with that, we'll thank everybody for stopping by. Take care.